On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, do the Avs have a Connor Hellebuyck problem, Mr. Sullivan? They might. Another shutout for him, and the Winnipeg Jets win this one 3-0. And we got to talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. If you want to join in on the conversation, there's a link below for our subtext subscription. So sign up for that, and we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. Let's dive in, sir. The Avs lose this one 3-0. Another shutout for Connor Hellebuyck against the Colorado Avalanche, and a lot to talk about with him and the Jets as a whole. But obviously, we got to start with the Avs here. And what is this one of those games where you think it was as bad as the score? I mean, they got an empty netter, so sure that gives them the 3, but this was an odd game to watch for me because it started off a little bit slow, seemed to pick things up for the second half of the first period. I thought had a good enough second period where I'm like, okay, like you're even though like you're down 2-0, that's you can get back in this game, but it's very difficult against a goalie like Connor Hellebuyck. And then in the third, it just seemed like they fell flat. And the third just seemed like they had nothing left to give, and they just ran out of gas in the tank, and they get the empty netter, and that's your game. What's your overall thoughts on this one?
Chris, my friend, my co-host, my amigo, we have delayed talking about this episode as long as this game. It's hard to summarize. Like, watching this team, you have a superior, like, all-world. This is an all-decade team. When it comes to your big 3 on line 1, you got Cale Makar quarterbacking a line with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. Magic should happen somewhere. It doesn't matter if they're shooting at the Walrus in the commercial. They should get something happening. And it's concerning. And these, like, when we talk about the Avalanche winning games and everything's wonderful and hunky-dory and everybody's drinking burgundy and blue Kool-Aid and having the best time talking about winning the Central, we kind of just say, hey, their passing looks weird. Or, hey, that power play is broken. Or things are out of sorts, but hey, at least we got a 2-goal night from insert player name here. When that doesn't work, and the top line it's one of those, we've seen them on the back-to-back. They looked incredible on the second half of a back-to-back. Why are you slow? Why are you not getting up for Hockey Night in Canada? For the, like, what does it take for this team to get punched in the mouth and push one more step? When they get out and they could score and have a 6-1 night, there's nothing that can get in their way. It's the next step up. It's the who's holding this team accountable and wants to win tonight. That's what's missing. Like, this team is top to bottom. You got your goalie problem figured out. Mackenzie Blackwood, 929 save percentage. Yeah, it's there.
Bad. Yep.
It's great. But it's when you're getting punched in the mouth, who's going to step up? That's what's missing for this team right now. And nobody still is calling the power play as a problem, and nobody's correcting it. So I don't know there's nothing wrong with the team, but something's wrong with the team at the same time.
Well, for this one, I thought they responded well. They gave up the early goal, which we've gotten away from for a while, like giving up those early goals. I'm sure Mackenzie Blackwood wants that back.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice shot. It was a pretty shot. I don't think he thought he was going. Who scored? I don't have the stats up in front of me.
I got it right here.
All right.
Ehlers.
Who was it?
Ehlers.
Okay.
Second goal is Sheffley, and then Ehlers in the empty net.
Oh, he got the empty net. Okay. So I don't think he was going, like, he thought he was probably going down the middle, and then he kind of turned and went to his left and had a nice shot back across his body. Like, it was just a nice scored goal. But I think for Mackenzie Blackwood, like there was nobody in front of him. It was kind of on like a little bit of a break. And I think he probably wants that one back. So he's, I think he is the real deal. We're seeing that. But when they got down that goal, that's when they started to have a little bit more jump, and they started playing well. They started getting pretty decent looks, difficult looks, but ones that they could do something with. And that's where the Jets really, like, when they get a lead, they're tough to really come back on. And when the Jets got the second goal, it was so weird, man. When they got the first goal, Avs woke up like, okay, like we let in an early goal. Let's start playing well. And then when the Jets got the second goal, the Avs were like, well, this is impossible. And you just saw a change. They looked just defeated and deflated and just, yeah, they think they were giving it the college try, but they kind of just felt like we'll throw pucks on net, but we just don't have confidence that we're going to get any past him or that he's going to give up a rebound. I mean, there were some rebounds, but not that were falling right in the lap of the Avalanche or had two guys around an Avalanche player to get a rebound. Winnipeg makes it difficult for you to score any goal, and you saw that firsthand. They got a lead, and they just dial it in, or they just funnel everything like right to to the outside, and they clog the right in front of the net. You can't do anything. It's like a brick wall up there, and it's not just Hellebuyck. It's their defense. They turn it up when they have a lead. It's tough. It's tough to beat them.
And I don't want to get into the nasty habit. We got into this with Georgie a little bit, and I don't want to do this with this team. But it's an issue, and this is the third time you play the Winnipeg Jets. First time, 1 shot, 1 goal. That was it. And the team gave the old college try, and you lost 1-0. Second game, you got out to the lead. You had the mojo on your side. You beat them 5-2. Now you get a game where it was a good goal, and you gave it the college try. You got the second one and pack it in. Let's try again. No, that's the problem with this team. Like, hey, Winnipeg had a clean sheet. They did not not a single power play that they had to work with and still won the game. You had 2 opportunities on the power play. In games like this, where it is this tight and just a swing of momentum can change the outlook of a game, like it did in game 2 against Winnipeg, this is where you need to utilize the power play. And the power play, there was some shorthanded looks for Winnipeg on these power plays. Like, you have to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, and the Avalanche just didn't have the fire or the heart to do it. There's no excuses, really.
Sure.
Like, everybody was there that was supposed to be. And with the exception of your Nichushkins and your injuries, but this is a good roster. Winnipeg's a good team, and you have proven you can take them down. But in games like this, especially like to a lot of these guys, they know the importance of Hockey Night in Canada. These are the games you step up a little for. This is like Monday Night Football for American football fans. Like, you take a little step up because you know this is the big stuff. And the Avs just did not take that step up, and were not bothered by this game. Things that happened, there was no frustration, there was no extra chippiness, and I want to see that fire in games like this. Like, I know you solved all your other problems. I just want to see some of that fire where things bother you and you correct it instead of, oh well, we'll get them next time. I don't want to see that attitude out of the Colorado Avalanche.
Well, I think there are a couple things. Like, I just feel like in a game like this, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But like for that second goal, before they scored that second goal, the Avs had a pretty good possession and had some good cycling. It seemed like the Jets were getting a little bit tired. And you threw some pucks on it. There was a nice flurry just right in front of the net. You didn't score on it. And then what happens? Winnipeg goes the other way. Puck kind of gets knocked around, goes right to Scheifele, he just happened to be circling around the net right as the puck just lands on his lap, and he buries it. And wasn't I saying the game before against the Wild, the Avs were the ones getting the bounces like that, and they were burying those chances? That lasted one game. And I'm not saying the Jets got all of the bounces, but that's an important one. And that was a huge one to go up by 2. And that just changed the entire complexion of this game. And you mentioned the power play for both teams. for the Avs, it's really good that you're not committing penalties against you're not committing penalties against the Jets and giving them a power play because they have the number one power play in the league. So that's good that you're doing that. The problem on the other side of it is you got a couple, and you in a game like this, you have to get at least one. You have to. And you had the one in the third. When you're down in the third period, those first 5 minutes are huge. And especially if you're down 2-0, if you can get one in those first 5 minutes, you have 15 minutes to play with. And if you don't get anything, and by the end, the last couple minutes are going to be with a goalie pulled. So you're going to have opportunity in that third period, and you had it. That power play came, I think, in the 4th minute of the third period, and you couldn't do anything with it. And you want to talk about changing complexion of the game when Winnipeg scored a goal, that second goal, then you start getting the momentum back if you can get a power play. That's how important those things are. And the Avs are in free fall with the power play. They were top 2, 3, top 5 for a huge chunk of this season. And now I think they're like 15th, 14th or 15th now.
Yeah.
It's an important part of the game. And when it's not working for you, it just makes all of the other aspects of your game have to be, I don't want to say perfect, but on the ball. And they have been for the Avs. They've been pretty good. But that's the one thing that still remains the sticking point for them that they have to improve on. And last thing I wanted to say was, how, well, let me get a break in. And it's the way the Avalanche are playing.
I have a point to that too.
Okay. All right. So let's get a break in. When we come back, we obviously have more to talk about this game. We have our subtext people to get to as well. And of course, our sound check. So we'll do all that next. All right. We got FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Well, if you're listening to this on the day it's released, today's the day, Kyle. Is it going to happen? Broncos, Bills. What's your final prediction here, sir?
It's time to believe as the Broncos win this game 34-17.
Love it. 34-17. Oh, baby. All right. I'm going to hold you to that. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. Get started with the $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make every playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so the Avs lose this one 3-0 against the Winnipeg Jets. And one thing that we've said a lot on this show is the Avs don't kind of like change their tune too much when they're playing an opponent. They'll make adjustments. They'll make minor adjustments here and there, but their game plan is their game plan. They're a speed team. They're built on that. And they don't really change the dynamic too much. And I think in a game like this, it comes back to bite you. And, again, going back to the last show we did about the Wild, when, we were feeling really good about Mackenzie Blackwood. And when you have a 2-goal lead, you feel confident. And when the opposite was true for this game, the way the Avalanche were playing, and they don't really change it up too much. They believe in their system, and they believe they can get some goals here and there. I didn't really have that feeling that they could pull this off. So does that look? I mean, is that a downside to the Avs when it's a game like this and you don't really change up too much? You're just hoping to get a goal here and they're continuing to play your style, and it's not going to work.
Yep, that's exactly the points I was going to bring up about the Avalanche, because this Winnipeg game felt like the Chicago game. And you had the Minnesota game in between. What changed the Minnesota game? They played simple, basic hockey, and it worked. You kept trying to do the same old thing against Chicago to no avail. You kept trying to do the same old thing against Winnipeg to no avail. And I think it was power play number 2. They forced that drop back so deep. It was PP1 was out there for a long time. You had the big heavy hitters out there, and they were deep into that shift, and they managed to keep the puck alive, and they were about to come back into the zone. And the forced drop back hurt so bad that my cells split in two. Like, it was so bad, and they barely got into the zone and made nothing happen of it. They rimmed it out, and then they changed it out for the second group to come out there. That we got to get rid of the drop back. Like, the Avs have to understand their winning ways comes from their talent, not their X's and O's. They have to get over the drop back. And there was a play in the second period where Cale Makar was chasing one of the Winnipeg forwards. I cannot remember who it was. And Nathan MacKinnon came off the blue line in the defensive zone and met Cale Makar. And there were 2-on-1 in that instance. And when you're down and you're allowing another player to get open in the offensive zone just to double team to get to that puck, you're puck chasing. And you cannot allow mistakes like that just in order to get the puck and then pass and not make it past the blue line. Because Winnipeg, hey, all Winnipeg fans that are dancing around on YouTube right now, getting ready to troll us, you guys are a good team. I am really worried about a 7-game series against Winnipeg right now because you guys are built to go all the way.
We'll talk about that next. I do want to bring that up next, but go ahead.
Yeah, you guys are good. I'm not saying anything negative about you guys, but when Winnipeg is locking down the neutral ice as they are and making it impossible to get into the zone, you have to take better shots. You have to play simple. This passing around and working, like, it's not working. You have to just take the wide open shot and not get to the hot hands, because the hot hands aren't hot either. You got shut out against Winnipeg.
Well, the Avalanche are not like when you're down like that, and you have a goalie that's dialed in. You always hear like the term like you got to get like a greasy goal in net, and the Avs are not a greasy goal team.
Nope,
they're not, and that's the difficult thing here is like it was tough to just get that one goal, just to get something on the board and have some momentum to build around, and it's a little bit frustrating because you don't have those guys that can go in there and go do that. You play within a system, and you know the Jets are not going to make it easier for you to get those greasy goals. They just clog everything up right in the middle, and they're not going to allow that to happen. So when you don't play that way to begin with, and you need something like that to get on the board, because your regular style, when you're down, like if you're up on this team, it's true with any team against the Avalanche. If they're up on them, they're really good with a lead. We've seen their record after they're up after 1. We've seen the record after up after 2. Like they're a good team when they're up. When they're down, yeah, we've seen them be able to come back too. Like the Avalanche are a difficult team to beat. But when you have a team that's built the way the Jets are, that make it difficult for you to do anything, when they're the ones that are up, and you have someone like Connor Hellebuyck and that can just, he towers over everybody. He can see everything from every angle, no matter where it's coming from. It's just difficult to get anything past him. Go ahead, and then I'll bring up.
They also have to understand this is Winnipeg. This is not Anaheim. This is not the Kings. And Winnipeg's got tape on what the Avalanche do. They know how to game plan. You just had them in a playoff series last year. Like this Winnipeg team this is not new. The Avs are not breaking out. And by the way the Avs have been doing things, we're a couple years removed from the Stanley Cup. This is not new and innovative and game-changing what the Avalanche are doing. Everybody knows what they're doing. So Winnipeg, they know exactly what you're doing, no matter who the goalie is. So you're not going to try and force it down their throat on this is what we're doing. You're going to give up your position. You're going to allow us to be the Avalanche. No, they know how you're going to do the drop back. They know who's hot, who's not. They know how to game plan. They've played you many times before. You have to, when they have that much knowledge on you and your game plan and what you're doing, you have to scale it back a little bit. Play simple, play beer league, take them off guard a little bit, change up your style. Bednar's really good at taking the intermissions and flipping the game, and we haven't seen that in a while, and we need that.
And this was a tough one for your depth players, I think. Like you're although nobody scored in this game, obviously, for the Avalanche, but like your best chances and best opportunities were coming from the top line.
Mhm.
I think some of that is like, hey, when you're down, they're going to be out there more. So they're sure they're going to be getting more opportunities. But your depth guys, again, just following a game in Minnesota where they showed up, it was a little bit of a struggle for them. And you see that just in like the Corsi scores and stuff like that. I know Casey Middlestat's in kind of a rut right now, but he was going through the numbers right now. He was by far the worst in terms of like on ice, like Corsi for and Corsi against. So when he was on the ice, his Corsi for is 12 and his against is 25. So they were getting a lot of opportunities. And this is a team like Winnipeg, they can score. They're up there with some of the best teams in the league in scoring. So, when it's that much of a discrepancy, they're taking advantage of you being out there. So because everybody else, Calvin DeHaan was 410 against 18, but your top guys were doing what you would want them to do. Drouin was a 4 of 19 and against 13. Mikko and MacKinnon were both 24-14 against. And Kale was 25-4-21 against. So like when those guys are out there, they're controlling for the most part the offense and where the shots are coming from. So for Winnipeg, it was just like, we just have to get through those shifts. We just have to bend, don't break when their top guys are out there. Easier said than done. And when we can get to the other guys, we'll take advantage of it there. And you saw it, and that's how it was happening for him.
When you have Nathan MacKinnon out there for almost 25 minutes, Mikko Rantanen out there for almost 25 minutes, Drouin out there for 24, and Cale Makar didn't have a single shot. Nathan MacKinnon had 3, Mikko had 3, Drouin had 2. So you're saying basically a shot a period when you're almost at 25 minutes. That has to ramp up at some point when you understand, hey, the game's getting away from us. They're mounting a lead against us. You got to eventually start firing away, because that's the only way goals go in is when you shoot the puck. It's happened for 100 years. I know it's groundbreaking analysis right here, but you've got to start shooting the puck. And if you're going to rely on that top line, you got to see more than a shot a period.
Not only do you need to shoot the puck, but in this one, I was wanting the Avs to shoot quicker.
Yeah.
You can't hold on to the puck as long as you are, because they'll just get in position, and we've already seen them just locking everything down. You need it, even though it might not go in, but it's like, getting pressure on a quarterback. Like it just throws off their game when you're in their face and they can't find, their first read or whatever. But in hockey, that's like the equivalent. You get a quick shot on net. And so many times in the power play, they're cycling around, and I'm thinking MacKinnon's just going to rip a one-timer, and he doesn't. He holds on to it and he passes it to someone else, and it gets knocked away. You just get them out of position. You get them like chasing. You get them just flustered.
Activate the pads of Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
Get something off that.
Yeah, I just thought they were holding on the puck for way too long, and trying just I don't want to say they were overpassing, but when the pass came to them, just holding on to it for that split second too long, and it made a huge difference because Winnipeg just got back into the position.
Yep.
Let's talk about this Winnipeg team going forward and way forward into the playoffs. And then we've got our subtext people and, of course, our sound check, all that next. All right. We love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And I got to say, I was on the Game Time app today. Michael Shannon, Michael Shannon, the actor?
Yeah.
The fantastic actor. He fronts an REM cover band that tours the country, believe it or not. And they are fantastic. And he's going to be playing pretty close, a couple hours away from me. But I was on Game Time, and I think I'm going to go to this thing.
That's an experience.
They were on the Jimmy Fallon show like a couple days ago. Go check it out. They play Driver 8. It's wonderful. Man. Wonderful. Yeah. And Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and you redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it, Mr. Sullivan?
It's game time.
All right, so let's just quickly talk about the Jets, and do we feel like there are going to be a problem in the playoffs? Not just for the Avalanche, just in general, because Connor Hellebuyck has made it personal about how he played against the Avs last year, and for the regular season, he's owned them. But is this one of those things where it's like, hey, you can do whatever you want in the regular season? This is the Peyton Manning, once he finally got over that hump of, regular season, you're great. What can you do in the playoffs? Are we looking at the Jets in that way of like, sure, they're a really good team. The time to prove it is in the postseason. How are we looking at them right now?
All right, Winnipeg Jets fans, here you go. Time to enjoy this commentary on you. Winnipeg scares me to death. This was a real good chance to look at Winnipeg and how they are, and they remind me of just like an evil army that you would see in a movie. Hellebuyck is like the evil king. He sits back there. And the thing that scares me about this roster, top to bottom, no matter what line is out there, they identify as the Winnipeg Jets. It's not like the Avalanche. It's the top line and everybody else. This is all the Winnipeg Jets. It doesn't matter who they are. They all play with that same caliber of pressure and commitment and precise skill that it scares you. Like they're constantly, they remind me of the Vegas team that won the Cup in 23. Like it is just a constant rolling, and Hellebuyck's back there and nothing's getting to the king. And it's relentless. It doesn't matter who, like top to bottom, they could score all with the same proficiency. And the way the goals are distributed through this team, you can see that. There is no front runner. There is no Nathan MacKinnon on this team. This is a solid unit that all believes in one direction where they're going. They understand their assignment and they get it done night in, night out. And if something does break down, they have the confidence in the world's best goalie and Connor Hellebuyck. They scare me. They should scare anybody if you have to match up with this team in the playoffs.
There's no doubt they're a good team. No doubt about it. You said they remind you of Vegas. I think they remind me of Dallas from last year. Dallas was very good top to bottom. Just all four lines, all good defensive pairings, great goalie. Like that's kind of what they remind me of. Maybe even a little bit better than that. But and I think when it gets to the playoffs for them, it's will they beat themselves?
Yeah.
And will it get into their heads of, because a lot of those guys are still there. Like they didn't have a ton of turnover in the offseason, which, hey, like look at that. We were counting out the Jets and at the beginning of the year, or before the season even started, I should say, and we were giving all of the accolades to Nashville. And Nashville's a team that had a bunch of turnover, and look what's going on there. And the Jets kind of stood pat and say that we're comfortable with this team, make a few adjustments here and there. And they're benefiting from it, from a team playing together for multiple years, right? So when you get to the playoffs, the same guys that have been through kind of like the struggle in the playoffs, are, like they're there too. So is it in their head? I mean, they're professional athletes, so you would hope. I mean, but they're human too. So if things start going, if they have a bad game in the playoffs, are they going to jump to panic mode? I don't know. Well, that remains to be seen. But if they're up in games and if they're controlling these games in the playoffs, yeah, they can definitely make a run. And I will always defer to goalies in the postseason. It's like pitching in postseason baseball. It's like defense in postseason football. When you have a goalie that's like he is, you got a shot. And for the Avalanche, I'm not saying Mackenzie Blackwood is on the level of Connor Hellebuyck. I am not saying that. But being an Avalanche fan, you at least you're tasting a little bit of what Winnipeg has had for a long time with Connor Hellebuyck. For an Avalanche fan, be like, hey, at least we have someone in there that we're really confident in. They're going to be going in the postseason feeling pretty good too.
If I'm the Avalanche in that locker room after that loss, I'd be sitting there saying, guys, this is where we need to start working on where we get seated in the playoffs, because we don't want to match them right out of the gate, and you really want to hope that it's Western Conference Final, and maybe some other teams could beat them up a little bit and drag them down, because this team is built for the playoffs, and you hope you get the worst version of them, and that's going to be later in the playoffs. You don't want to match up with them right out of the gate.
Let's see. We go over on subtext. Again, if you want to join the conversation, link to that's in the show notes. We got Vargar, 22 shots, just ain't gonna cut it. Tonight didn't have the BS excuse of being a quote-unquote trap game. No. Hellebuyck is great, but the Avs were no-shows. It's weird, man. Like, they were – I don't like using that term, no-show. Like, but – they did seem to let the foot off the gas after that second goal. So you had like a beginning and end to the game where it was like, I don't really like how this is going, and sandwich in the middle was good. It was good hockey, like opportunity hockey. But what was on the outside of it was not. So it was just a weird game.
Pause my commentary for that until the sound check.
Hey now. Cody says, ultimately not surprised, as I thought the Jets were holding back against the Kings, waiting for this game, and they proved tonight as the Avs fell right in, although losing every other game lately isn't good, but toss this one out and be ready for the Rangers. I wouldn't say like the Jets were holding back against the Kings, because the Kings are a really good team. So you want to put up with them too, and see what you got for a team. Like, you get back to back against two teams that are like really good teams. I don't think you're going to take one of those games off,
especially with Colorado's last game being such a commanding win against Minnesota. You didn't know what state Colorado was coming into Winnipeg.
Yeah. Avs fan forever. If I had $1 for how many times a no-look pass was broken up or intercepted, I'd have enough to buy a steak dinner.
On the nose.
I don't know about like if they were no-look passes, just straight up passes just seem to be getting broken up. Or
the passes are atrocious. Yes.
Craig, yeah, man, we need Val back. Yeah, he says we need Val back so bad. His sound checkers couldn't get it right by the Climax Blues Band. I feel like he's picked them before. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
I'm loving the Blues selection.
Adam says, not gonna lie, I didn't watch any of it. I'm out celebrating my 41st birthday. He says, yes, he's old. Dude, I'm older than you. And did not tune in. Looks like it was for the best. I hope it wasn't as bad as the score suggests. Well, if you got this far in the show, Adam, you kind of get a good idea of what it is. But happy birthday to you, sir.
Yeah, happy January birthday, Adam.
Sorry the Avs couldn't win on your birthday, but at least you didn't have to watch the loss. So I guess that's a gift in and of itself. And finally, Kay says Winnipeg was better than them tonight, straight up. Very disappointing. They really needed the 2 points. Oh, well, on to the next one. Lots of games left in the season. Thank you, Kay, for the optimism. Love it. So, all right, let's get to our subtext, sound check. I think I combined subtext and sound check. The subcheck. Yeah, or sound text. This is the sound check where Kyle and I pick one song each that summarizes the most recent game. Put these songs up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow along. Just search for LOA Sound Check Volume number 4. So what do you got going on the playlist today, sir?
One of my favorite just obscure niche bands in the entire whole wide world.
Metallica.
No, yeah. Pantera. No, Grateful Dead. This is a band, TWRP.
Okay.
I'm telling you, when this hits the sound check playlist, listen to it. Their vibe is like straight out of the 1980s. You have no idea it was made. Like, this song was, I think, 2019, 2020. It is beautiful
stuff. All right.
Okay. Beautiful. This one's called Phantom Racer. This one goes back to anybody who played video games like in the 90s and 2000s, played racing games where they had the Phantom car, where it was like your best time up in front of you.
Yeah.
This is what this game was. Like, the Avalanche kept trying the same old, and you could see how they just did not stack up to where they should be. And they were chasing that all game long. Like, you got to change it up and cut a corner and make up that time somewhere. And the Avs just didn't do it. And they were chasing a ghost of themselves all game long. So Phantom Racer by TWRP.
Like the Speed Racer movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wonderful pick. Wonderful analogy. Excellent job, man. Put some work into that one. I love it.
I think I should be on a podcast.
You should. You should. Daily, too. Who doesn't love a good Foo Fighters song?
Oh, bring it.
So this is one of their popular ones. It just makes all the sense in the world. I'm going with Best of You. Not because this is the best of the Avalanche. If you listen to the lyric, is someone getting the best of you? Yeah, it's Connor Hellebuyck. And I guess you could say the Jets as a whole right now. But that's the lyric. Is someone getting the best of you? Yes, you can answer that question. Cut and dry, man. That's what it is right now. It's you have one more game against them, though. And it's at the end of this month. And then you're done with them for the year. So someone else said that the Jets are on an 8-game homestand right now.
That must be nice.
How does that work? I'm not trying to come up with excuses or anything. Well, I'm not. But
their attendance, how would you know?
Oh, burn. I think the Avs have a 5-game homestand coming up, which is their longest of the season, I believe, if I'm not wrong. But you have one more game against them, so let's flip this around, and maybe you can get the best of them, and then you'll be 2-2-0 on the season. So that's where we're at. All right, we're gonna wrap this thing up. So thank you for tuning in, everyone, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys on Monday, and you just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby is that much closer to becoming a Colorado Avalanche, and they could have used him tonight.
He lost too.
What else is new?